16 years ago, a company was born. From the mind of Jeff Jarrett, TNA Wrestling was built to be the alternative. As years went on, TNA brought in some of the biggest wrestlers in the world, making names of some of their homegrown talent, such as AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, James Storm, you name it. And also bringing in established talent such as Sting, Kurt Angle, and many more. Over the years, TNA had the reputation to be an alternative to other wrestling companies. But now, Impact Wrestling is at a standstill. Majority of all their talent has vanished, seeking better opportunity elsewhere. And the word of the day is, should TNA / Impact Wrestling sell to the WWE? I don't know, but I know I've been doing these monologues for years, and I'm still waiting on my damn check. Give me my money, TNA, Impact, GFW, what the fuck ever wrestling. Just give me my money. What up there, guys? This is Jugget82. And yes, that was me doing the impression of the guy that does the intros to TNA major pay-per-views and stuff dealing with TNA across the line. And yeah, epic with the intro. But this video is really talking about what's been going on with Impact Wrestling, TNA, and so forth. Of course, I know they're no longer known as TNA, and eventually, at one point, they were Global Force Wrestling, and then the whole situation with Jeff Jarrett. I'm happy for Jeff Jarrett going into the WWE Hall of Fame. That would have been a video of me basically talking about that and be like, wow, who would ever have thought when hell froze over that Jeff Jarrett would be in the WWE Hall of Fame? But that being said, we're talking about Impact, TNA, Global Force, whatever it once was. Basically, the things that have been going on in TNA, and I got this DVD right here. Some of you guys might know it. It's called The Rise and Fall of WCW. This was, of course, produced by the WWE, but it's an intricate tale. At one point, WCW was able to, for 84 weeks, beat the WWF in the ratings. And many people at one point thought the WWF was going to go out of business because of what impact the WCW brand at the time had going for itself. Now, let's talk about TNA. When WCW finally folded, Jeff Jarrett and his father, Jerry Jarrett, decided to create TNA. TNA would be the competitor to the WWF. And the interesting thing about TNA, many of you don't know, is that when TNA did their weekly pay-per-views and so forth, when they had the grand pay-per-view of start of it, weeks after that, maybe months or so, TNA was hemorrhaging money and they were going to go out of business. But that was until Panda Energy stepped in and put money into the company. The father decided to give the daughter, whose name is Dixie Carter, y'all know Dixie Carter, the finances to help fund TNA, which gave it its momentum. Eventually, TNA would go from to stop doing the weekly Wednesday pay-per-views that they would do on the pay-per-views, and they got a TV deal with Fox Sports Net. Um, Modest beginnings, but all in all, they were on television. Eventually, they did get to a main station, which was TNN or Spike TV, and from there they were able to get garnishing, and then also by the money that was being flown into the company, they were able to get major wrestlers in the company, such as Kurt Angle, Christian, you name it. At one point, they even got the Macho Man, Diamond Dallas Page, just a lot of wrestlers, Raven. They got a bunch of wrestlers in that company, Legion of Doom, Big Van Vader. I mean, these were probably one-off in appearances, Kurt Hennig, you name it. Of course, they had homegrown talent. And that's another thing about TNA or Impact Wrestling or whatever. They had the potential to truly compete with the WWE. I remember a couple of times on WWE programming, fans would chant TNA. If you want to hear a clear example, do you guys remember a match they had where Donald Trump took on Rosie O'Donnell? Yeah, it was shit. And they had these lookalikes or whatever doing whatever. The fans were bored as fuck, but they were chanting TNA. TNA actually at one point had a morale with wrestling fans where it could have seriously went heads up with the WWE. Now we go to 2010. Most notably, that year, Hulk Hogan made his debut in TNA. And for many wrestling fans, they was skeptical, but they said, hey, let's see what happens. Hulk Hogan makes his debut with TNA. TNA decides to go to Monday nights to compete with WWE Raw. It's Raw is WWE's flagship program. Um, I remember doing a video being all jacked up about it, thinking this is going to be amazing and all that. But looking back in hindsight, I think that I overjumped the barriers because you have to think that was in the WWE. I bet you knew this because this was also that Monday night. Bret Hart came back to the WWE after all those years, came back to the WWE, and then you had Hulk Hogan debuting in TNA. Who knew what was going to happen? But the thing that many wrestling fans look at about that pivotal time was that as much as TNA was trying its best to compete with the WWE, it couldn't compete with the WWE. It had star potential. Even Jeff Hardy debuted on that particular episode of TNA, and well, re-debuted in TNA, if you will. And at that point, Jeff Hardy had already made himself a mainstay and a name in WWE. But you had a lot of things that, on the surface, looked like it could be really good for TNA. Could really work. But then you fall on the fact that when Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff came into TNA, it was already pretty much presented that they were going to be working with creative and doing this and doing that, have a fist hold on the company. You started seeing wrestlers that were being brought into the company that were not utilized to their full potential, and you could see it on the programming. AJ Styles, mainstay. They tried to make him look like a goofball. When you had like the main event mafia and all that shit, and then you had all these wrestlers, all this potential in the wrestlers that were in the company. And the thing about it is, WWE, should they buy TNA? Will they buy TNA? I think they will, because if you think about it, Anthem Sports might end up selling. Look at Matt Hardy, for instance. They caved in eventually with the whole broken Matt Hardy thing, and now Matt Hardy owns the rights to that. Then look at the fact that literally, if you think about it, the major champions in WWE right now are former TNA wrestlers. Bobby Roode is the United States champion. AJ Styles is the WWE champion. I know Raw has the Universal champion, but at the end of the day, Brock Lesnar is not a defending champion on that program. And besides, SmackDown has the WWE title because it's called the WWE Championship. It's not called anything different. It's the WWE Championship. And then you also take into effect that in NXT you have Eric Young, former TNA wrestler, Drew Galloway, who's of course came back as Drew McIntyre, but at the same time he built his name in TNA. And then you have all these wrestlers like Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, and all these wrestlers like Kurt Angle and so forth, Samoa Joe. All these guys were in TNA, and Kurt Angle really he was in the WWF. Yeah, everybody knows he's in WWF, but he had majority of his wrestling career in TNA. And the thing about it, the investment that TNA had to take, Impact Wrestling, if you will. I don't even like calling it Impact Wrestling. It's TNA. It was TNA for all those years. It's TNA. What can they do to rebuild what they have? Start from scratch? They're doing that. But is it too late? And the thing about it is, I look back at, because I'm not a person that's trying to be hypocritical or be destructive in my tone about what Impact Wrestling is, or TNA, whatever. It's the fact that literally over the years I've seen that it had potential. TNA had a bunch of great shows, great pay-per-views, and great enthusiastic fans that supported the product. But when you constantly had different creative people come in, change their own, mold their own idea of what they wanted to see, and then you constantly sit there and flip back and forth with the fans that you claim that you want to make enjoy your product, it kills the whole atmosphere of what your wrestling program is. In the long run, TNA to me was a great company, but it seems like when you look at Ring of Honor, when you look at the NWA, I'm subscribed to the NWA wrestling channel, and they've been doing a lot of creative stuff. And I really have been enjoying what I've seen with the NWA with Nick Aldis, who used to be known as Magnus here. That's another guy who was in TNA, and he's now the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And I'm looking at New Japan and all these different other wrestling companies that are coming up on the normal. TNA is getting tossed in the shuffle. Sure, they have a deal for television programs. I think right now they're on Pop TV, and I've watched a lot of their programs. They still have a bunch of great wrestlers in their company. I mean, Eddie Edwards, you have Rosemary, you have there's a lot of things that still TNA has. But at the same time, it's about the marketability and producing it to get it out there to the masses to see. Uh, and I don't know. I just can't say. If WWE was to get to buy the TNA library and just buy TNA in general, they could use a lot of that with, of course, some of the current wrestlers in WWE, like Samoa Joe, like AJ Styles, because now they have the library. They can showcase some of their matches that they had before they came to the WWE. But like I said, I don't know. I've always tried to say been and tried to be a huge supporter of TNA wrestling, but it seems like with Anthem taking over and with the things that have happened over the years with mismanagement of talent and so forth, it's hard to say whether or not TNA will even exist after this year. But yeah, this has been my 2 cents about TNA wrestling, the new face of professional wrestling. Yeah, guys, but this has been my video, my 2 cents about TNA wrestling. And yeah, I would hope they become bigger. I would hope they would make a way. But it is what it is. This is Jughead82, signing off.